Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about my flipped classroom, and let's just jump right into it. Why not? So I want to start off by saying I'm going to kind of break up the video into a few parts. So the first part is going to be about what is a flipped classroom. The second part is going to be about why I flipped my classroom. Third part is going to be kind of like what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. The fourth part is going to kind of be my thoughts on a flipped classroom so far in my classroom, how it's been working out for me, I guess. Also, a little disclaimer, I want to just mention that if I'm looking down, it's because I have my notes in front of me. A viewer requested this video, so I wanted to make sure I covered everything in it. And the last thing I want to say before I go ahead and jump into the video is if you would like to help this channel grow, which I would love for this channel to grow, go ahead and give it a like, this video a like, as well as watching through the whole video. If you watch through the whole video, it kind of helps out my channel. And if you have the time, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Now let's go ahead and talk about my flipped classroom. All right, so the first part I wanted to talk about is just what is a flipped classroom. In a traditional classroom, the teacher's lecturing for a certain amount of time about a certain topic, and then there's usually some sort of either group or individual practice on whatever the teacher just taught about. For the purposes of video, I'm going to talk about math because my flipped classroom is math. Traditionally, in a traditional elementary math classroom, the teacher lectures about a certain topic. So say, for example, multiplying 1 digit by 2 digit numbers, and then the teacher gives some sort of either group assignment for the kids to work on practicing that skill of multiplying 1 digit by 2 digit numbers, or they'll give individual practice, or sometimes both. And then what'll end up happening is at the end of the day, those kids will have some more individual practice for their homework, where they'll have, you know, like a worksheet of 2 digit by 1 digit multiplication problems to solve. And then that homework gets turned in the following day, and the teacher moves on to the next topic. And that's what a traditional classroom looks like. A flipped classroom is a little bit different. A flipped classroom, the lesson, the lecture part actually takes place at home via a video or some sort of reading, but since I do teach elementary school, video and having a visual is a little bit more practical for the kids at this age. So that for homework, they have that video that they watch. They have a few problems that they do just so I can make sure that they actually watch the video and if they're understanding it or not. And then the following day they come in, they show me those check-in problems that they did at the end, and then we jump into some sort of activity, whether that be small groups, whether that be a project, whatever it is, and that activity or project is based on the skill that was taught in the video the night before. I'm going to use that same example. So if their homework the night before was to watch a video on 2 digit by 1 digit multiplication, they would watch the video, they'd answer their few questions, and then the following day we may have a group project where they have to do some sort of activity that helps them practice the 2 digit by 1 digit multiplication. So it's kind of like homework in a sense being done in class, but the activities are a lot more engaging. So part 2, I wanted to talk about why I flipped my classroom personally. So the main reason why I wanted to flip my classroom is to be able to have time to meet with every single kid every single day. Last year, I taught 4th grade as well, and I taught in a traditional classroom, meaning I lectured and then I gave them some sort of independent or group practice. And then for homework, they had their independent practice worksheet. What ended up happening was I had kids who were not understanding the beginning of the chapter, and our chapters kind of build upon the first lessons. It kind of gets a little bit more complicated as the chapter goes on. Well, they were missing some parts and having some misunderstandings in those first parts, but I wasn't having time to meet with every single kid to clear up those misunderstandings, and so those misunderstandings would kind of snowball, and then we get to the end of the chapter and I've only met with that kid 1 or 2 times. They're still not understanding it. So with a flipped classroom, I'm able to meet with the kids every single day, and for every single video and every single topic I cover, I'm able to meet with each kid to see what their misconceptions are. So if one kid's not understanding that 2 digit by 1 digit multiplication, I'm able to come in the next day, see that they're not understanding it by looking at their homework, and do some practice during that small group time. Some side reasons is I wanted a little bit more engagement out of the students. I found with the traditional classroom, a lot of times I was having to do a lot of discipline issues because the child was bored, because who wants to listen to a teacher talk about math? I mean, when I was a 4th grader, I definitely didn't want to do that. They ended up getting in trouble a lot more because they were bored and off task, and I just wanted things to be a little bit more engaging for them. And it also, I wanted to have more time for those project-based learning activities. So for example, in my last video, I'll link it up here somewhere or down in the description, one or the other, maybe both, I'll see. But in one of my previous videos, I talked about how I did a place value classroom transformation, where the kids actually had to plan out their birthday party using all the math skills that I've taught them. And so that was a more fun activity rather than them sitting there and answering, what's the value of 7 tenths and round 78 to the nearest 10? Things like that. That's kind of boring. And doing worksheets is kind of boring. So I thought it'd be more fun to have activities like that. Also, it would lead to less behavioral issues. And so those are just a few reasons why I've flipped my classroom. So part 3, I actually wanted to talk about like how it kind of works and how it looks like in my classroom. So first off, I have filmed almost every single lesson, unless I feel as though that lesson is not going to be able to be fully covered in a video. If it's something where it's like multi-step word problems, I'd rather be face-to-face with them and do a traditional lecture and then just take a little bit more time and have a couple days to do that lesson rather than trying to have them watch an hour video. I've filmed a bunch of videos, and for each lesson that I teach, I film a video. Each night the kids have a video that they watch. It's part of their homework, and I've posted the videos onto my website. I've showed them how to get on there, and in fact, the first few times that I had them watch the videos, I actually had them watch it in class with me, and we talked about how to take the notes, how to answer the check-in problems, how to pause the video, all those like technical issue things that might arise if they were at home and I didn't show them how to do that. We practiced that the first few videos, so that wouldn't be an issue. So anyway, so then they copy their homework down that day. Say for example, yesterday they copied down 2.8 video, chapter 2, lesson 8 video, and so then when they went onto my website, they would click the 2.8 lesson and they'd watch the video. At the end of the video, I always give them some sort of check-in problems, usually like 3 to anywhere from 3 to 5 questions based on the lesson that I just taught them, and they're required to not only take notes but to answer those questions. The following morning, the kids will come in, they'll open up their math journals, and they'll show me their notes as well as their check-in problems. And I walk around just with a sticky note, nothing special. I write the lesson number at the top. And sometimes if it's a lesson where there's like multiple skills covered in one lesson, I'll like draw a T-chart down the middle, and I'll have one skill on one side, one skill on the other. But if it's just one skill covered in the lesson, then I just write the lesson number at the top. And so I walk around and I check the problems for accuracy, whether they got it right or wrong. And if they got like one wrong, but it was just like a minor thing, I'll quickly correct them on that and show them how they got that problem wrong there. But if it's like 3 out of the 5 questions are wrong, I write their name on the checklist, I circle the questions that they got wrong, and that way I know when I go to pull them in my small group, I'm able to cover those skills because they didn't understand lesson 2.8 or whatever the lesson is. And so I walk around and I do that for every single kid. I give them their dojo points for doing their homework because I want to reward them for doing those math homework, because last year I didn't have a lot of kids doing their math homework, so this year I really want to reward them for doing that homework, especially because that's the actual teaching portion. If they don't do it, then they're missing out on me teaching them. Then after I check their homework, we go over their morning work problem, and then we jump right into small groups. So I do 4 small group rotation. It depends on how the kids did on their check-in problems as well as how they did on their previous like quizzes and stuff. But typically those small groups consist of a intervention group, so like this chapter we're doing multiplication, so my intervention group is going back to 3rd grade multiplication, where we're working on just multiplying 1 digit by 1 digit numbers. Then I have a group that is kind of like my reteach group, where they're past the 3rd grade stuff, but they're still not understanding the 4th grade stuff, so I have to kind of go back over and cover it. So like, for example, tomorrow I'll be meeting, that group will be going over expanded form with multiplication, which that's something that we've already covered earlier in the chapter, but they're still not understanding it, so I'm going to reteach it in a different way. And then my 3rd group is typically my group that's on target and they're understanding it. They are not really ready to move on to something else. They need a little bit more practice with what we're working on. So that group, for example, tomorrow we'll just be practicing some more multiplication with mental math, because that was the video that they were supposed to watch yesterday. And then my 4th group is usually my extension group. So my kids who are on it, they are ready to move on. They are already understanding the topics that I've taught, so much so that they're ready to move on to the next thing. And so, for example, tomorrow my extension group is going to be working on a different multiplication strategy, which I've not taught them yet, which is using, they will be doing multiplication with regrouping, which is kind of like the traditional way where you set it up vertically and then you carry the numbers and whatnot. It's kind of more traditional in that sense, so I'm going to move them on to that, whereas the other groups are still kind of working on what we've already talked about with expanded form. So yes, that's typically what my groups look like. Sometimes I have to have like 2 intervention groups. Sometimes I have to have 2 like reteach groups. Usually I will only have 1 extend group. I don't usually have more than 1 extend group. If they're not at my small group table, what are they doing, right? Because I only meet with 4 to 5 kids each time, and so I have 3 other centers that they rotate between, and each kid comes to me every single day, so they will see all the other centers every single day. One of my centers is a computer technology center where they go on to a program called iReady. It is an individualized learning track, so they take a diagnostic test at the very beginning of the year, and then it basically gives them lessons and activities to do online that are based on their misunderstandings and what they need to work on, or things that they are ready to move on to. If they're understanding all the 4th grade stuff, it moves them on to the next topic. All right, lighting's a little bit better right here, so I'm gonna take over from here. All right, so you may have noticed that the lighting has changed yet again. I had someone to come look at the dryer, so I had to move or I had to wait for them to be done, and I just kind of moved because now the lighting's a little bit weird when I sit back here, so I'll be sitting and leaning forward, which is okay. But anyway, so I was talking about how in my classroom I do a teacher table, I do a technology center, and I also the 3rd center is an application center. So like I was saying, in the traditional classroom, these students have a worksheet that they do for homework, which is individual practice. Well, that homework sheet that's in a traditional classroom is usually what I put at my application center, where they actually have to use the skill that I taught them in the video to solve problems. And then my 4th center is always a game center. I have lots of games that I have purchased off of Teachers Pay Teachers, or games that I have gotten from other teachers, or games I've created myself, and I've saved them all. I have them all in binders, and I just put them out. So I have a whole drawer thing that I keep for the games, and I typically do 1 spiral review. So currently right now in my spiral review drawer I have a geometry game. We don't get to geometry until the end of the school year, and so I kind of want to start introducing them now to it, so that when we get there it's not such a struggle. And if I kind of run out of time before our end of the year testing, at least they have some exposure to it and it's not this brand new subject. Also in my drawer system I like to have 1 or 2 like review centers. So like currently right now I have some math fluency facts, so those 3rd grade math facts that they had to memorize in 3rd grade. I still have kids who don't have those memorized, so right now I have 2 drawers with 2 different games for fluency facts, and then I have 3 other drawers. The 3 other drawers consist of 1 on target. So whatever that skill was that was in my video the night before, I'll have that in there. And then I have 2 extend drawers, which are at the bottom. So I kind of do it in order. So the spiral, then the review, then the on target, and then I do my 2 extend. And my extend is basically what it sounds like. I'm extending their learning. So it's either a more challenging game that's on that same topic, or it's the next topic that we're going to cover. So they kind of get exposure to it before they even learn the lesson or watch the video of me teaching. So that is my game center that I do. And so the kids, typically I'll be with each group for about 15 minutes. Like I said, I get to meet with every kid, and that was my whole goal of doing this, is to meet with every single kid every single day. So part 4, I wanted to talk about my thoughts, kind of the pros and cons of what has worked for me and what has not worked for me this school year as far as flipped classroom goes. We'll start with the con. I can only think of one. No, actually, I have 2 cons. Let's be honest here. The first con is there's so much planning. So much planning. Planning and prep is like way more than I had to do last year. Last year, I just looked at the standard, I taught the lesson, gave them their homework, and it was all prepared for me because it was in the curriculum. This year, I'm having to do a lot more because while I am teaching the curriculum through my videos, the stuff I'm doing in class is not usually curriculum stuff. The games is not part of my curriculum. The technology center is not part of my curriculum. The application is usually part of the curriculum, but I still have to figure out which pages I'm using and which numbers would be most beneficial for them. And then my teacher table, I'm having to completely create everything on my own for that. So it's a lot of planning, it's a lot of prepping, but I figure if I put in a lot of work this year, next year's not going to be so hard because I'll have all the stuff that I use from this year to build on. And if I didn't like something this year, like I said, I'm using this channel as a reflection so I can just talk about it in the video, and then next year I'll be able to look back on these videos and see what lessons worked, which ones didn't. Yeah, that's one con, is all the planning and the prep. And then the only other con I can really think of is that because it is so new to my school and no one else has done it in my school before, I'm kind of having a little pushback on the fact that I'm doing it. Administration hasn't said anything about me doing it. I have told administration that I'm doing it, but they haven't really made any comments about it to me. Where I'm getting a lot of pushback from the parents. Particularly a few of the parents have made comments to me, not saying that they're mad I'm doing it, but they're wary about it. They're a little nervous about it because it is new to them, and so they're just kind of wondering how it's working out, and they're wondering if it's a good thing or a bad thing, so they're kind of feeling it out. So I've had a little bit of pushback. No one has said like, I can't believe you're doing this, this is not a good thing for my child, which if that were the case, okay sir, with your music, if that were the case, obviously I would have to get them some background information on why I'm doing it and show them my data as far as, yeah, actually they're doing great, but that's not the case. As far as other teachers go, I've actually had a lot of positive feedback, and that kind of leads us into our pros. So as far as pros go, I've definitely seen a lot more engagement from the students, especially when they're at my teacher table for those 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes of focus work, and it's actually funny too. I mentioned earlier in the video that some days I do a traditional lesson depending on the skill, and so those days when I'm like, okay, we're not going to do centers today, we're just going to do it old school and teach it through the textbooks, I get a lot of like they're upset we're not doing centers. Like they really enjoy doing centers every day, so at least the kids are enjoying it, so that's good. And that's truly what matters anyways in teaching, as long as the kids are learning and that they're having fun doing it. Like, does it really matter what the other parents think? Does it really matter what the other teachers and staff thinks? As long as the kids are learning and they're having fun, who cares, right? Another pro is that I do have time to meet with every single kid every single day, and that was one of my main reasons I told you guys that I wanted to do this, was to be able to meet with all these kids every single day, and I've done that, which is awesome. And then just general other things, I just have more fun doing it. My brain, after 30 minutes of teaching whole group, I'm kind of bored, so it's more fun for me to have different activities for every single group. Like I said, it is a lot more planning, but it's a little bit more fun for me and a little bit more engaging for myself, not just for the kids. So the last pro that I can think of is that my data wise, it's proving to be working out. I want to say my class average was in the 80s. I want to say it was like mid 80s for my first chapter 1 test, which is awesome. Last year it was nowhere near that, and granted I did have different kids last year. I think that definitely doing this non-traditional method of teaching has kind of shocked them and gotten them into liking math a lot more, so they're bought in a little bit more. They're buying into this whole flipped classroom thing, and they're trying to learn math so they get to do those fun centers and play with their friends and understand it, rather than kind of sit there and not being able to play the games because they don't understand it. But yeah, so those are all my kind of thoughts so far this year. Overall it's going well. It's just a lot of work. Okay, and so then I have a bonus part 5, I guess. I wish I would have brought the book home, but I didn't think that I was going to be filming this today, so I'll just put a picture of it somewhere around here or a link down in the description. But I read a book before I started this whole flipped classroom thing to give myself a little background knowledge. It's called The Differentiated Flipped Classroom, a practical guide to digital learning. Alright, so that was my whole video today on flipped classroom. If you have any other further questions that you need clarification on or anything like that, go ahead and feel free to leave it in the comments down below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. But other than that, don't forget to give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future videos. I post every Sunday and Wednesday, and usually Wednesdays my more fitnessy videos, and Sundays my more teachery videos, just to give you a heads up. So alright, with that, I will leave you guys, and have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much, you guys, for watching to the end of this video and supporting my YouTube channel. It means so much to me. If you would like to catch up on any of my older videos, you can use the 2 links right here. And if you would like to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future videos, you can use the link right here. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.